Please have a seat. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for staying till the last session. I also wanted to recognize someone in the audience who took time out of his busy schedule. Our very own senior legislator from Financial Committee, Legislator Fei Hongtai. Please stand up and wave your hands to everyone. Thank you for your support and guidance. It's good to have him in a Financial Committee. So the very last session is about future. It's about getting wild with your imagination. I think for the past 2 days, we've been, just breaking out of our comfort zone. But how much of what we have heard and what we have shared is going to happen, is going to realize? So I wanted just to take this moment just to welcome our panelists, this exceptional group of futurists, dreamers, and doers. Let's give them a round of applause again. Okay, great. So, cryptocurrency, blockchain, hype or hope? Hope, raise your hands. Hype, raise your hands. Okay.
Both.
I've seen some bold movements. Okay, first of all, hype or hope? Dan.
Well, I think if we look back over the last, say, 40 years, the internet really began in 1968 with the release of the code for TCP/IP and the beginning of the internet and email. And then the second wave was 1992 with World Wide Web. So if we look at what happened, now we have millions of machines all over the world that have connected using that protocol. And the web, now we have over 1 billion websites. And then 10 years ago, we had these things. Now we have 3.5 billion of them. Blockchain is bigger than all those three combined. So it's definitely hope.
Celeste?
For me, I think it's a mix yet. Because those who see this as a hope is those who believe in, versus who views as hype is actually don't believe it or don't trust it. But at the core of blockchain technology is how the decentralization is designed to work is in the incentive system. And I think those who don't believe in blockchain yet is those who are still in the mainstream traditional industries. And what you have to think about for this blockchain moving to be truly hope for everyone is we need to think about incentive system for existing those non-believers. Yeah, that's my view.
Good. Wei?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Jason, for inviting me to join this wonderful event. To answer the question, strictly speaking, because I'm a tech guy, I would think both hype and hope. The reason hype is that I think a lot of you guys may see the curve called Gartner's hype curve, which a new technology, when it comes out, it always goes very, very high, very much hyped, and then go down, and then gradually move forward. Like VR is actually going through this stage now, gradually move forward. VR previously, in the last year or previous 2 or 3 years, it was very much hyped. And big data is actually coming down. It's used a lot, but it's actually coming down. People talk it a lot, but people actually come down. I think for blockchain, because the special property of ICOs and cryptocurrency being able to exchange, so blockchain actually goes quite high in the hype curve. I think eventually people will come down. Now it's a bear market, so it comes down a little bit. But I do think blockchain is also a hope because there are so many, we see so many projects out there, which is really good. And in fact, for our project, Seele, we are also trying to use blockchain to solve industrial applications like healthcare, industrial applications, finance, energy, border trade, these kind of applications. So I think both hype and hope at this stage.
That's a very safe answer. This guy is smart. CZ?
All right, so I'll try to be smart as well, and I think it's both. So I think there's two ways to look at this, right? I think if you look at one coin, the market always overreacts. I think I would agree with Wei, but I would say instead of one curve, it actually just does this, right? Over time, hopefully it goes up. And then if you look at different coins, then well, we have many coins, we have many tokens, and different coins. Some coins go like this, some coins go like that. But I think overall, as an industry, there's definitely hope, right? So, well, not even hope. I know we will be here 20, 50, 100 years later. So I think as an industry, it's definitely hope. It's a good thing. So, but market always, as an exchange, I see it all the time. Market always overreact. So it goes up too high and it comes down too low, and then goes up too high, comes down too low. But eventually, I think we're looking at the market is never going in a straight line like this. It just doesn't work that way. But overall, I think it's absolutely clear. There's no question about it. It's gonna stay.
Professor Lee?
I think in my 25 years as professor, hedge fund manager, as well as operation, I have never seen another technology as good, as powerful, and as complicated as blockchain. And I think basically what it has done is that it's empower individual. And in this empowerment, it brings along responsibility. Responsibility of keeping up your with the private key, responsibility about speculative motives, investment motives, whichever direction you want to move. So it depends on how we look at it and how we behave towards this empowerment and the responsibility we've taken. But having said that, because it's so complicated, a lot of people don't understand. It will take a longer time for people to extract the value from blockchain. And in the AI world, where privacy is important, where the fear of autonomous weapon is the utmost importance, then we continue to see the value of blockchain increase over time. Of course, there will be a cycle in between, but our reaction will decide how fast we see the value, or we can bring down the value in the short term.
So talking about returning power to people and providing access to people with information, resources. However, I can't help but wonder, today's Bitcoin and cryptocurrency seems to be rich people's game. And that's always been a big concern to legislators and our governments, thinking about how would this trend or phenomenon trickle down from Main Street to average citizens' daily life. So how do we make sure that it's a money not for the select few, but it's a money for the people? Dan, you want to take a crack on this?
I think the real critical thing to remember is that blockchain and Bitcoin are not separate from the phenomena of the World Wide Web. These are the next stages of it. And if we look what happened with the World Wide Web, the protocols were released. Anybody in the world now could make a website, link it in to all the other websites in the world, and start a business. Little companies like Etsy started just a few people in a room, and now they're worth $1 billion. With blockchain and combining with the web, we're going to have a business environment that's more extraordinary than we've ever had. And I think it's going to democratize business in a broader way than we've even seen it so far. Many large existing businesses will be negatively impacted by the blockchain world. And young people are going to go to the blockchain first before older people. It's just the way it always is. And they're going to establish the new businesses, which will replace a lot of the existing big successful businesses in the Web 1.0 era. So I think we have a huge opportunity for people all over the world, from Africa, South America, everywhere, to engage in this new business environment.
Celeste?
Okay, so for that question, me coming from traditional finance business background, blockchain as a technology is actually too big for me. But as an industry participant and player, what we need to focus to show to the market, to make the believe the use of the blockchain as a technology, actually we need to show real use cases, small steps. So it's as simple as, to me, people travel with one card, which is universally spendable without going through money changers or paying extra fees, or credit card with added commission for interchange fees. If we can show the use case of such cases to the market, then that will convince the market, and actually the benefit is obviously there. So yeah.
Okay, for that question, I would like to answer that we already seen some applications. In fact, the first blockchain application, Bitcoin, people already use it to transfer money, without any country boundary. However, also other people use it to do money laundering, this kind of bad stuff. But I have to be criticized that blockchain now, we see a lot of projects nowadays, but most of them, the most use case we see on blockchain is to do ICOs, is to do tokens on the exchange to try to make the tokens more valuable. These are the most use case we see. So one of the problems that we are trying to tackle is, can we use blockchain in the real industrial applications? For example, can we use it in the healthcare industry? For example, if you compare the health services, the doctor's knowledge, for example, in the US, in some private hospital, some rich people get the best service. But those kind of doctor knowledge cannot be shared to the rest of the world. For example, in a village in China, or village in Africa, or in Taiwan, they don't even do some screening for the most basic services. So they don't get those services. Can we use blockchain to do a knowledge sharing or a knowledge transfer in the healthcare industry to basically increase our living quality, to increase our life? That's one of the applications that we are actually doing in Britain and also in China. I think I would like to see more and more projects, not talking about TPS or the delay. Of course, those are important, but I would like to see real applications that can
好，请给我们一点时间，现场做应变。
Hello, hello. Oh, back now.
有了，谢谢。
Did you say something? Okay.
I'm done.
That was
So
soft.
there's two parts to your question, I think. I think the first part is it not fair for the early adopters or the rich people? Is it just a game for the rich people? I can say that it is not, because of course I'm not biased, right? And I think I was a very average person before, and I become rich through crypto, not because this benefits some other rich people. So, and the fact that you're rich or not doesn't really matter. So the second part is, what's the benefits for the normal people, right? Or we'll say average people. I think for everybody, what blockchain does is it increases the level of freedom. So that's the key. So it's not so much about giving them more power or giving them less power, it just increases the freedom. And every time we have increased the freedom of something, good things happen. So it's every time we increase this freedom that matters. So for me, that's what I'm driving for.
Great. Professor Lee?
Yeah, there are many consensus algorithms. I'll concentrate on two. Proof of work, which we have concentration on mining. So it's important for us to continue to work on democratizing mining, working on the software and the hardware to ensure that mining is democratized so that everybody can benefit and be decentralized. In the case of proof of stake, the rich will always get richer, and therefore, I think in terms of philosophy, the ability to allow whatever software or network that we invented to fork is important, because if the price has gone out too much, somebody must be able to fork it so that we can start the game afresh again. So not allowing any network to fork is not a very good approach. So I think that's the first point. And the second point is that I hope regulators and a lot of people who are in power will continue to gear ICOs, tokenization, and so on towards serving the people who are underserved and unserved, because 70% are excluded. So if we can direct our newfound technology to bring them in, we have new business model. Bring them in, we have new customer. And bring them in, we have new revenue stream. So in that case, everybody will be benefited from the new technology, and they're all being served using this technology. So that is my answer to that.
For the future, I always love to use this metaphor, especially when talking about blockchain. So blockchain is like a surface of the road. Then the road is neutral. There's no good road, bad road. But the projects or all the blockchain use cases and applications are like cars that are operating and driving on the road. And there are sports cars, there are trucks, there are buses, all different kind of cars, vehicles. And your ICOs or your token are the fuel or the gas that keeps the engine moving. So this is kind of the future that I dreamed of. And how do we make this road smooth, flat, and it's good to drive, and make sure that everyone gets a fair chance of play? This is what I'm thinking. But I want to ask all of you on this panel, all of you are delegating to specific fields. I know, Dan, you worked on AR and VR, putting on blockchain data of augmented reality, virtual reality on blockchain. CZ, you are engaged with some of the most forward-thinking governments around the world. Professor Lee, you work in the educational sector. What is the decentralized future in your respective field? Dan.
I think we really need to start with the idea that blockchain, it doesn't stand by itself. On top of a blockchain, you can have smart contracts. On top of the smart contracts, you're going to have artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will modify the contract based on real interactions in the world and changes in the situation that we're dealing with. So now we've got two technologies, blockchain and AI. But then how do humans interact with the AI and the blockchain? Well, they're going to interact with VR and AR and voice. So now you can see it's a stack of technologies, not by itself. Blockchain is like the data layer. The AI is like the logic layer. And the VR and the AR and the voice and IoT, they're the interface between the blockchain and AI and the world. And so as these things come together, they create really a powerful new set of combinations that open up a massive number of applications. So new education, new medicine, smart cities, all these kinds of things. When we're sitting here talking right now, part of our brain is using logic to have this conversation. Another part of our brain is monitoring our heart rate, our breathing, and keeping our body in a stable place. AI and blockchain will actually be able to manage the environment of the planet, manage the environment of a city, make little subtle changes in the way traffic moves, in the way healthcare is provided, in the way charges are provided for whatever kind of service is needed. It's almost like an autonomic nervous system was going to be built for our planet, so it operates more efficiently, more effectively, and obviously we have to clean up the environment. We have a big mess on our hands. I just came from the climate summit in Aspen, Colorado, and we've been looking at how blockchain can help with climate projects all over the world, for monitoring everything, keeping everything on the chain, making everything immutable, making everything clear and clean, finding out where the origins of things are and making sure that everything is solid. So we really are getting ready to manage our planet in a whole new way, our cities, our air, our water, everything. And blockchain, AI, AR, VR, these are the three tools that we're going to be using, and they converge very nicely over the next couple of years. We're kind of using the year 2020 as a big convergence moment because another technology called 5G, which is the high-speed mobile networks, will be coming online during that period, and that will open up a lot of applications with new glasses that we're going to use for AR and VR goggles and new kinds of smartphones. And it's going to be quite almost a science fiction decade, I think. From 2020 to 2030, we will enter one way, and when we come out in 2030, we're going to be a very different world.
Thank you. Celeste?
Okay, so the future of blockchain for me, specifically into the finance and evolution of the crypto finance. So I'd like to address two areas which impact how people get the money and use the money and recycle the money. I'm from the banking background, and traditionally banks was structured to make money, especially the big global banks or investment banks, where there's asymmetry of information. So those who have more intelligence, market intelligence, and the network versus don't have, there was always a gap. Those who have can take margin out of it. But the spread of the internet and even wider spread of the network and connection that actually reaching the blockchain, meeting the blockchain technology, the information is widely distributed now. So bank actually not in a good position to enjoy that higher profit anymore. That's where I came across the potential of this crypto finance. And for me, managing an exchange, I see exchange as a funding platform. So I want to really support good projects, have the exposure, which is truly global, and get the funding from the investors, which are also truly global. That's the really powerful reconnecting both sides from investors and those who are token issuers.
Great.
I just want to mention 2 points. The first point being freedom, which CZ mentioned in the previous question. I really like the word freedom. From the technical side, I just want to say blockchain, like Bitcoin, is running safe and running fine for the last 9 years without being hacked. It is very secure, and people say it brings freedom to us. It's a different kind of freedom. Once we are on the blockchain, right, imagine everybody here is one node in the Bitcoin system, and everybody is actually monitoring you, monitoring your privacy, monitoring your data, monitoring your bank account. So from that perspective, it actually becomes less free. So that's why it is safe. For the future of blockchain, from my point, from the technology development, I would like to say, I think blockchain will be like the internet. It will be like an infrastructure. It will go lower and lower. It's just like we're building a road. We're building the highway. It's like in China, we're building the fast trains. We see there's a lot of infrastructure change because we need to build the fast train. We need to build, a lot of bridge. We need to make new materials. But so far, for now, we see a lot of projects, but we haven't really seen big change in the hardware. We don't see a lot of development in the underlying, in the lower layer internet protocols. So we think we are just scratching the surface of blockchain. There still need to be a lot of development. Just one more point about the future of blockchain. Although I know our session is called Imagination of the Decentralized World. It's supposed to be about the future of a decentralized world, but I don't think we will be totally or completely decentralized in the next 5 or 10 years. The reason, the society is like this, the society is never like a blockchain, it's peer-to-peer, all completely, parallel. It must be conditional connected. That's how the society works. And until now, we don't really understand how the centralized system works. What is the really disadvantage of the centralized system? We don't fully understand the centralized system. We cannot rush into the decentralized system. But okay, that would be my point.
Okay.
So I will sum it up very simply. I think basically my view of the future, imagine 1 million coins. It's very simple, right? So this
On Binance or no?
of course.
Of course, okay.
So I think there's 3 parts to it. If we have 1 million coins, which I think we will have very soon, I don't know exactly when, but that means that we have an economy or a system that can raise money to support 1 million projects. So that means we have the financial ability to raise money for this through the blockchain. And that means we will have at least quite a large number of those projects developing, making blockchain better, making our industry better. And then thirdly, very related to what I do, we got to figure out how to have exchanges support 1 million coins. Because right now, I think most of the systems don't or can't. So either centralized or decentralized, I think doesn't matter too much. But I think we will see a future where there's 1 million coins, 1 million good projects. And so this is a situation where a new technology, I don't think we're not here to replace banks. We will work with them. We're not here to replace traditional financial systems. We're making a much bigger thing. That's not capable, that's not able to be achieved using the traditional financial methods. So 1 million coins, we'll see when we get there.
Great. Firstly,
Just to add to that is that blockchain cannot solve all the problems, but it can solve a lot of problems that we are facing today, especially problems that the government organizations and the business organization cannot solve. So blockchain will be the driver of the 4th industrial revolution precisely because of that reason. So with the right tokenization and the right token model, we can make the entire economy more efficient because those problems cannot be solved by the existing organization. To give an example, will be like fractional digital asset ownership. We can own 10% of a cow now, worldwide, cross-border, anywhere in the world, with very low cost. We can't do it with existing technology, but we could do it with blockchain. We can also de-homogenize products. Not only that we can own a fractional cow or livestock, we can actually fractionalize or tokenize the milk, tokenize the calf. We can tokenize a lot of things that we were not able to exchange before. So that will be the new world of tomorrow, that if we put our minds together, if everybody works towards having better tokenization methods and fundraising methods, we can solve a lot of problems that currently we cannot solve.
so Professor Lee, you talk about tokenizing milk. Is that something you call cow coin?
Yeah, it's a Sentinel coin, which I actually spoke earlier on, and different grades of milk as well. You can do a lot more than that. We just want to de-homogenize goods. And everything has got a different value. Even water in the desert and the water in this room has got a different value. And because of different valuation, tokenized model are able to charge at different price, just like the gas that we use at different time. We can charge differently, but it's the same gas on the Ethereum network.
So what's the downside? All of us here are overtly optimistic, but we're still facing everyday challenge. What would be the downside? In other words, let me paraphrase this. What will we do to prevent from a disastrous event that will completely topple the industry or that will completely destroy the industry? So what should we do to prevent that?
I think it's the case in every industry. You bring your best people together, and we've in the recent months we've been creating something that we call the Federation. It's a group of about 100 companies that are coming together to say, this is a powerful new technology. We want to kind of create a consciousness to make sure that we use this technology for good purposes. And so we've brought companies together from IoT, from artificial intelligence, from virtual reality, and from blockchain. And we're creating a formal organization. And we met with Mr. Andy Ge from China and from some other people from Singapore. So it's an international group, not only in America. And we're trying to make sure we kind of create like an observation of the process. And key members that are creating these technologies kind of come together and talk about it and make sure our systems work well together. And we all have a common vision that we want to see a world that we would like to live in and our children live in. So it's up to us, everybody in this room, to keep an eye out and you know, pay attention to what's happening, and maybe raise your hand if you see something not so great, and together we can kind of move this in a good direction.
Thank you. Celeste?
So I think I need to repeat my first sharing about how do we need to incentivize the mainstream players for this blockchain as an industry to be adopted to the whole world. That's where we are, pursuing as a global business, right? So what Shiji mentioned before, I'm pursuing crypto finance, but my mission is not to replace existing banks or financial institutions. I actually believe those players come into this market and do business, they will produce better outcome, which will benefit the whole world in a better way. So we need to keep thinking how we engage them, what will be the benefits and incentives they can get convinced to come and play together with us. I think that's our mission.
Wei?
One of the downside I already mentioned is the bubbles. You know, of course, all of us see the bubbles of the blockchain related topics. But it's not necessarily a really bad thing, because bubbles, the good stuff always comes with bubbles. But once the bubbles is too much, you know, like the credit crunch, you know, the house prices going down, you know, that's because the bubbles was just too much. Another thing I would like to mention is that we talk about a lot of ICOs versus IPOs and the regulations. So people already start to activate, like in Taiwan, you know, you're discussing about the sandbox regulation environment. It's a good thing. But imagine if you're 20 years old, you're developing your technology and you're going out to do an ICO, and you raised a few millions of dollars, or $20 million, $40 million of dollars equivalent cryptocurrency. Do you have the mind, are you strong enough to continue to develop the technology? So that's a question mark. So everybody who's investing in cryptocurrencies really need to study, you know, the technology and the team behind, you know, the real projects. That's just the 2 points that I would like to mention.
All right, so I think basically there's 3 parts to this. Unfortunately, most people are only focused on one part this year. So I think there's education, there's regulation, and then there's enforcement. Unfortunately, everybody's focused on regulation this year. And I think that's a very narrow focus. I think the best investor protection or just general population protection is to educate people, right? So if people can understand this technology, people can judge, people know what is a good ICO, what is not a good ICO, why when they promise you a certain return is a bad thing. So when they learn this kind of stuff, that's the best protection. And then I think people are also overly relying on regulation, or they're expecting everything to be overly regulated. I actually think we should allow for room for failure. So basically, if you work in a company, you say everything's got to be successful, that company does not progress. They don't do anything wrong because they don't do anything, right? So the company will not make progress. So smart companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, and hopefully Binance, we want to do this. So we allow for failures to happen, and as long as we recognize them and correct them quickly. So that's the best way to progress quickly. So I think people focus on regulation, but I think we got to take an understanding that it's got to allow room for failures, right? So we got to allow people to try different things. Some projects will fail. A large number of projects will fail. But if they fail for the right reasons, that's okay. If the founders worked really hard but they couldn't make it for whatever reason, that's okay. What's bad is if there's scam and fraud, and that's where the enforcement come in. So right now, I think all governments, all public servers, all industry players, and all users, everybody have enforced responsibilities. If you see something bad, you should either stop it or report it or do something about it. So I think collectively, if we all do this, then I think the force is very strong. It's much stronger than the government making a regulation say, hey, you got to register your ICO with a certain place. That's good, but it's not going to. It's the enforcement of the catching the bad players or stopping the bad players that right now is completely ignored. So I think we as an exchange, what was one of the larger businesses in this space, we see that all the time, and we want to help catch those guys. We want to do something about it. But so I think those three parts all need to improve. But I think people are kind of ignoring the third part, not doing enough on the first part, and overly focused on the second part. All three needs to be pushed.
Go on. David.
Well, 2008, Satoshi started Bitcoin. It didn't come about just like that because the world is in a very difficult situation and there were a lot of problems that the world cannot solve. And after 10 years, we realized that that was why Bitcoin existed. So no government could actually stop it. That's what is designed. The only way, and the worst downside, is that the entire blockchain community lose the support of massive community. And this is the greatest downside that we fear, and it probably won't come online, but more from offline intermediaries and also the human behavior offline. Because we have always been focusing online, but more and more are going offline. And a lot of problem is created offline because of human behavior. So it's important to remind ourselves that the greatest downside is ourselves, our individual actions. Do we still have the mindset to decentralize? And do we still have the mindset of what Satoshi was thinking about, distributing wealth and power? If we don't have, we lose the support of all the communities that we have built up. That's the worst case scenario.
So, hyper hope. I hope you have better understanding of the decentralized future. And it is really befitting for us, all of us on the stage, to conclude the final panel, especially on this day of 10 years after Satoshi's published white paper, which is peer-to-peer's network. He published in the wake of financial crisis in 2008, and which is really a pushback to an overly leveraged financial game. And today, 10 years from his publishing of Satoshi's white paper, the question we are asking ourselves, with all of you in this room, with this exceptional group of speakers and panelists, is, are we working together to make this world a better place? And are we working together to advance humanity with the power on our hands? And I certainly hold myself accountable as a legislator and a lawmaker to ensure that a fair and just environment is bestowed to our future generations. And like I said, the future of blockchain is like building highways, creating new roads. And all of us have the power to decide what kind of car that we're going to operate and drive on this decentralized future. So this is just a beginning. And like all of you who've worked in this field for a long time, and we just barely scratched the surface. So welcome to the wonderful future. It's great to have you. Thank you very much for this exceptional panelist.
Everybody.
Thank you. Let's welcome to a decentralized future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 要邀请徐委员为我们留在台上，也现在请大家一起合照留念。
I want to take a personal thank you to Andrew Fay. I'm really here because I started having some conversations with Andrew 2 years ago about Bitcoin, and I always wanted to build a science fiction system, and he got me thinking more about blockchain, and and it helped us create our new technology. So I want to thank Andrew for that. Thanks a lot, man.
好，同时也邀请协办单位的代表一同来上台。
I also like to welcome all the speakers that are still in the room. Please come up stage. Please, Malik, Jay, and all of you who are still in this room, stay till the very end. Please come up stage. 请还在现场的 speaker 讲者们可以跟我们一起上台。
也特别再次感谢这一次协办单位的代表人 Gifto 创办人钱行志 Mr. Andy 田，邀请 Block Temple 的 Co-founder Danny 林子君先生也一同来到台前。Obito.io 的 founder Andrew Fei 已经在台上了，谢谢大家。如果您是讲者，也邀请您来台上一起大合照。
Okay. All right, it's great. It's great. Block Temple guys in this room, can I have Block Temple people to come up? Great, great. So this has really been 2 wonderful days. And I begin by saying that the world has a lot of problems, fake news, armed conflicts, and etc. But in this room, with this group of people, with this team who believe the impossible, 24 hours before this event, we ran into crisis, and we didn't think we can pull it off. And it was because of you, we did this. Because of you, we make this happen. So I want to just take this opportunity to give the team that's working behind it and the speakers who believed in this, who believed in Taiwan, a big round of applause. Thank you very much. And I also want to say that Ray Neuer from Crypto Show on CNBC said to me that governments should have more crypto congressmen like me. But I can say, after 2 days of conference of all of you learning about blockchain and cryptocurrency, I now have many, many mini-me. So I have 2,500 mini-me, mini-Jason, mini crypto congressmen. So all of you go back to your organization, your job, your school, your family. You're instilled, you're implanted with the seeds from the future. So let's join hands in welcoming a decentralized future. And we'll come back again tomorrow. See you 2019! Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all. 谢谢。
谢谢。